Show.
Hello, welcome to the Tim and Jen Show. I am Tim Ryan. This is my amazing better half.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Jimenez Ryan. We made it through November. Happy we made it through November.
We did.
11 months.
Yes.
Wow.
11 months of chaos, COVID, craziness.
Yeah, just change. Lots of change. So
Speaking
I want to talk.
of COVID.
Yeah, speaking of COVID. So I have been talking to you guys for a few months now about how I've been a little bit more emotional, and I've not felt well, and this and that, and I've had a lot of body pain. And we found out I have a diagnosis. It's called post-acute COVID-19. And today I went to the chiropractor, and
Thank God she went to the
Thank
chiropractor. I
God.
mean, Jen's had a ton of back issues, and it's been, what's the word, disaster? It's been out of control since we had COVID, but she finally
There's a lot of
went to the
scar
chiropractor.
tissue and all this stuff that's going on, and I have a diagnosis, which is relieving, and to know that I'm not the only one going through that is good. I'm having a really bad hair day. I'm just gonna say it out loud. And the Christmas tree, I'm trying to hide it because it's not all the way done. But next week it will be done. I have 500 more orders.
Back to your back.
That. But my back, thankfully. I'm taking care of it. I got some creams for it. I mean, I've been doing all the stretching and all the baths and all that, but I haven't been able to get a massage due to COVID. We're in California, so we're back on a mini lockdown, not full lockdown. But yeah, the chiropractor, I'm so grateful for her. And I just want those people who have had problems to know that there are answers out there.
Yeah. And things are good. Things are well. I'm glad we're going into December and do what we do. But I'm really, what?
I do want to say though, we also have Recovery Today magazine's out, and our dear friend Natalia Taylor, who was on the show, is on the cover, and we have a bunch of friends in the issue this month.
Yeah,
that they wrote
M2 Luke's in it, Luke Woollett, M2 The Rock,
and then our story, Learning to Breathe or something like that. I forgot because I wrote it a month ago.
So Recovery Today magazine, you can download on your app store. It's a free magazine, and it's badass. And I think our guest that we will be introducing here would be a awesome cover for Recovery Today magazine.
I think so too.
We'll plug that one in. But our guest here, I had the opportunity to go to dinner with a few weeks ago. Joe Reitman. Jen and Joe, how long have you guys been friends?
Probably over 20 years. I mean, Joe and I have been through it together. He is somebody that I love immensely and deeply. He has seen me good, bad, and ugly and indifferent, and he has always been kind to me. Well, I remember certain nights in Miami being off my head rocker, and you were so kind to me. I can't.
So hold on. Here's some of the things.
But the great thing about Joe, I do got to say before he comes on, is he's a fucking movie star.
No,
Sorry, I'm not supposed to say bad words, but he's a movie
he's a producer, director, actor.
Ray Donovan.
He does training. Hold on. Joe Reitman is currently best known for playing the villain in Very Bad Santa on the first season of the TV series Happy for the SyFy channel, Creepy Ed on the second season of the Netflix Marvel show, The Punisher. He's also appeared in over 50 episodes of television. Some of them are Married with Children, Charmed, The Shield, Supernatural, NCIS LA, one of the most badass shows we watched, Ray Donovan, CSI Miami, CSI Las Vegas. That can go on and on. But then let's get into, he acted in over 30 films, Kevin Smith's Jay and Silent Bob, Jay and Silent Bob, the reboot, The Perfect Storm. Yeah. That was a epic, badass movie. American Pie 2, Crank, blah, blah, blah. We could talk forever here.
Blah. Let's
I want him to talk more about it.
And he's a producer, and he's a director, and he's also a professional gambler. I mean, is that how I would say it? Or a professional poker player, rather, not gambler.
Joe, how are you?
Joe, hi.
When you read my resume, I sound so much more important than I really am. It really sounds like I've done a lot of stuff in my life. And
Joe, you have.
I'm just saying, as I sit here in my apartment in the middle of like COVID, I feel like I have nothing. It's like you sit there like, oh, I've actually led a life. That's good. That's good.
You've had a life and a half.
Here's one of the most badass things I read on here, though. As a director, Joe created, written, directed numerous commercials, as well as created and directed comedy segments for CBS's The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, which eventually led to directing full episodes of The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson for Sweeps Week, which was shot all over Paris.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
I mean, the whole order of events is interesting because it's really what happened is I directed this short movie. The first thing I directed like a short film starring this girl Jenna from Survivor first, and that led me to directing this movie called Leo. But I'd written this film Leo, and I wanted to make it, but I didn't really have the cash to make it. And my girlfriend at the time, Annie Duke, she was a professional poker player, and she taught me how to play. And on one of our first dates, I discussed with her the idea of a game show that I had called Annie Duke Takes on the World. She had an idea for a game show. I had one. She agreed mine was better. And we went into the Game Show Network and pitched the idea of this show. I said, it's called Annie Takes on the World. It's Win Ben Stein's Money, but with Annie Duke playing poker. Here's the producer of Win Ben Stein's Money, which is my friend Andrew, and here's Annie Duke. And they went, we'll buy it in the room. And I was like, what? Just like that? I never produced anything. So I had to learn how to play poker because I sold this show about poker, which I knew nothing about. I was just dating her. I'd only been on a couple of dates with her. And I was like, this is crazy. And so I started watching her play. I started studying her play. She started teaching me. I started playing online. We made the show. We made the pilot. They aired the pilot on the Game Show Network. They aired it as a special, and it aired. And then Annie was like, you know how to play poker. You should play in this tournament. And I said, okay. And I did. And it's like I said, there were 2,776 players, and I won the tournament.
That's awesome.
Right. And that all of a sudden I was like, oh my God. And all of a sudden I had the money to make my short. I made my short. I went to the World Series of Poker to play. I brought my short with me because I won the tournament on a poker site. And the poker site had a suite at the World Series. And I went in, they go, what do you do with the money? I'm like, well, part of it I put into this movie. I showed them the movie and they said, how do you like to direct our commercials? And I was like, sure. And so like I had that job. And while I'm there, one of the executive producers of the Craig Ferguson show came in and saw the movie. And he was like, you should meet Craig. And I was like, okay. They brought me in the meeting. I met with Craig. It was during the writer's strike, and they needed a director who could direct without a script because you weren't part of the rules of the Directors Guild during the writer's strike is you couldn't direct anything on a piece of paper. You could still make TV, but you couldn't have anything written down, right? So I went in for meetings with Craig, and we came up with some pitch ideas for like improv stuff we could shoot, make these comedy sketches that we would go in town and do. We did that. They were really pretty successful in the show. They got me a couple of cycles inside the show. That led to like Ford hiring me to direct some stuff for the show. And then I left the show. And then they called me and said, here's the deal. And this is really the truth of what happened. I'll tell you the truth. I got brought in for a meeting and they were like, Craig has a list of directors that he wants. The network has a list of directors they want. They can't agree on anybody. You're everyone's last choice, but they both agree.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And they were like, you're the only person everyone said okay to. And I was like,
wow.
So if you want the job, you can take it. And I took it and I went to Paris. The scouting week for Paris was fantastic. I had the best week ever just looking at locations. And the city opened up, I went into the Louvre, and cool. we were able to shoot outside the Louvre, but we went to like Versailles and they let us into Versailles before they opened in the morning. So like there was nobody there. There were no tourists. I just walked through like Versailles by myself. They gave me a special guide for the Eiffel Tower, who took us to levels that people aren't allowed to go to, and we had our own levels to ourselves at the Eiffel Tower where we could film. So and there's this guy named Arthur over there who copies Craig's show at the time. He did a duplicate of the show, literally ripped off the show. So we did a bunch of segments with him at his studio, which was a copy of Craig's studio.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was really, really funny. So I mean, it was an amazing experience, and I got to meet Louboutin, which was amazing. And,
oh my gosh! Ah!
Yes, and he signed a pair of shoes for Annie.
Oh, are you kidding me? Like that's every girl's dream. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So cool. So wait, Sweeps Week too, for what people like some people may not know is it's March and November, right? It's like the biggest time for like, the epic shows, the show finales, all that stuff. So it's like the biggest
Yeah, I mean, it's the ratings kind of like extravaganza, right? So they want great ratings so they can go and then pitch to the money people and be like, look at our numbers. We have great numbers. Look how big we were during this week. And that's what they do. So it was a big deal to go shoot there in Paris. And Craig had never done a traveling show before. So we took like the crew as much as we could. And then we picked up crew. I had French cameramen who were like, I shall shoot this show.
Oh, the way.
Yes,
Wow, that's amazing.
Wait,
So let's. I want to take it back.
hold on,
Go
I
ahead.
just do need
All
to
right,
ask
go
you,
ahead.
what did you do with the shoes that he signed?
I gave them to Annie. And they, I gave it to her. I think it was for a holiday. I don't remember what it was, but he knew she was a poker player, and he drew diamonds, clubs, and spades on the shoes and signed the red sole. And
Wow.
she's like, they're great shoes, but I can't ever wear these now. I'm like, no.
No, ever.
You put them on a shelf.
Yeah.
You let the value grow and grow.
That's
and
correct.
grow.
Joe, I played poker with you a few times back in the day. Like they used to have like these things where like they'd have celebrity events, poker tournaments. And so I was like, oh, I could play. So I think it was twice, once in Vegas and then once out here. And I remember sitting next to you and I'm like, what the hell do I do? And you're like, you don't want to play this hand. You don't want to play. I mean, I lasted like
How
2
much
minutes.
did you lose?
They give you money.
It's a charity event. So like celebrity charity events, they buy in the celebrities. So they
give you a lot of money.
Charity event like that, what happens? You have a buy-in. You're given a stack of chips. Everyone's given the same amount of chips. In a tournament, everyone gets the same chips. So it's
Right.
not like you're putting yourself in. And as a celebrity, they come and they give you a free stack and you play with
Yeah.
it.
So I mean,
So you were in and out pretty quick.
pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, I am the gambling. To me, I'll take $200 if I ever go. I'll play blackjack. I'll usually get up. I'll try to go big. I lose it and I'm out because I knew with my addictive personality, that's the last thing I need to get into is gambling because that would be a whole nother tornado of
Yeah.
Tim Ryan's life. So
Yeah.
I don't do that. But
It's the same stuff in the brain. It's the same. Yeah.
I wanted to take it back. Where did you two, Jennifer and Joe, where'd you guys meet? How did you guys become buddies?
That's a great question because I was thinking about the other day and I can't remember the time that I met you. Jen.
So
can you remember?
I do remember it was you and you were married before to Shannon Elizabeth and
Was it in Miami that we met? No.
no, Miami was years later.
Right.
It was
Years later.
2001, I think, when I hit the ground of Blow came out and I was doing all the red carpets and all the Oscar stuff and Vanity Fairs and all these parties, and I remember seeing you guys. I want to say that there was an event that we were coming up during Oscar week or something like that, and you were there with your wife, and I was like, oh my God, and you were so nice. Both of you were so nice to me. And I'm like, God, they just look so genuinely like happy and like they look real and they seem like they're really good people.
Yeah,
And I remember
Great actors.
great actors. And I'm like, and they're awesome. And like, it's them, And I was kind of a little geeked out, I'm not gonna lie. And then I remember you had your dogs with you.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was like a gifting suite with the dog, but you guys were the only ones like with your dogs. And then I saw you like the next night at one of the Oscar parties or something like that. And then you were so nice to me, both of you. And so then I kept seeing you guys throughout the events, and then as time went on, I saw you and then Mandy and all our friends, like we had the same friends and game nights, and all that stuff. And then cut to the NSYNC reunion in 2004, and I was a hot mess. Yeah.
2004 was that was that the only year you were in Miami?
2005. No, 2005.
No. 2003 or 2004. 2005.
And then like we were running around like Miami, like doing a game.
The scavenger hunt. I know you and I were on the same team for that scavenger hunt.
We were, and we won. And Gabrielle Union, like it was like a badass team.
Now, were you sober at the time or not? No. Jen was.
No, I was on like 30 Ambience, trying to act like I was sober. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to act like I was sober, and my friends thought I was sober, but I mean, you didn't think I was sober.
I
But
did.
like,
I was like, Jen, keep up.
everyone's like,
keep up, Jen.
yeah, everyone's like, she's so much fun. I'm like, no, like, it's God.
Yeah.
I was a hot mess. Then we played basketball. Remember, with like Usher and Justin and all these people, and like I just remember I was like, just get through it, Jen. get through it. And I was like trying to like, oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I remember in the ins and outs of the blackouts that you were so nice to me. I do remember that. Like you remember
in
who
the
good
ins and
people
outs of the blackouts.
Yeah.
You were nice.
Yeah, this is not about me. This is about you being awesome. Let's go. Let's.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
No, you know. Yeah.
I mean,
I thought you were great. I mean, I thought we had a really good time. I thought I had a really good time in that Miami trip. It was a lot of fun. The scavenger hunt was fun. They took care of everything. It was
so. What was the purpose of the Miami trip? What brought you?
I mean,
entertainers to Miami.
NSYNC has this charity that they used to. I don't think they do anything with it anymore, but it was called Challenge for the Children, and they raise money for kids. Cool. And every year they'd have this big thing in Miami that would be a charity event, and they did Orlando 1 year, a thing in Miami 1 year, the 2 years that I went, and it was great. Like they would literally like take care of everything, and they were really super sweet. Those guys have always been really nice.
Yeah, they're great.
I'm still close with Joey. Joey and I still talk a lot occasionally, more than anybody else, and Lance from time to time. I talk to Lance. Yeah, and I've seen Chris and I've seen Justin, but not the same relationship that I have with those two guys. And and CJ, same thing. But you go and it's just charity events, and basically they were smart. Like they'd rent out they would get a stadium donated, and they have this celebrity basketball game, and they were so big at the time, like they could sell thousands and thousands of tickets to their NSYNC fans that were just everywhere, and
it was like Usher and it was Usher and Dan Marino. We went to the stadium there, and like with the cheerleaders and Gabrielle Union and you and Shannon Cameron Diaz.
Pink was there.
Pink was there. Yeah, I mean it was insane. Like, and we were all on teams, so like it was awesome.
It was a lot of fun too. I mean, the funniest thing is we stayed at a really nice hotel. My parents live in Fort Lauderdale. And I've had a decent career, but I get people who want photographs occasionally. But for that event at that time, considering the people who were the fans there knew who everybody who came to the event was. And so I came down to the lobby to see my parents, and I got flooded. And my parents had never seen that before. And they were like, "Why do people want to talk to you?"
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a big deal.
That's a cool experience.
So I was with Lance Bass at the time. So it was very overwhelming. That's a whole nother show, but yeah. Anyway.
So, yeah. All right. Enough of Miami. You're from Boston. Yes. You ended up out in California. When and how did you come out to? What made you decide to pursue this career, or did you kind of stumble into it? Is this did you go to college? What'd you do?
I was in Boston, and I'd watch 6 hours of TV a day. And my mom said to me, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "I think that." And I pointed to the TV, and she goes, "I'm serious. People don't do that." I'm like, "Some people do because they're on the TV." And she was really against it. And I fought for it. And it didn't look like I was going to come to California. They were trying to get me to go to University of Wisconsin or Michigan. I had a huge football game on Thanksgiving, 1985. The last football game I ever played in high school. I got nominated for player of the state. I was player of the game, and all of a sudden I got recruited by Brown and Wesleyan and Colby and Bates and all these schools back east.
Wow!
And I was I had a private guidance counselor because I wasn't really focusing on college. My parents wanted me to, so they hired a guidance counselor to try to get me into a school. And he became my agent and started being like, "We need to contact schools." I'm like, "All right, whatever." And he goes, "What do you want now? What do you want now?" And I go, "I want a school where I can be an actor that's close to LA, that I can act and play football and kind of figure out what I want to do with my life. And we should make it small because a big school that gives me space, I'll get really wasted and no one will ever find me again." I knew then at 18, if you put me in a school with 40,000 people, I could just go to a bar and you'll never see me. I'll just, I knew. If I wasn't going to be kept accountable, I wasn't going to be accountable. Right. So, yeah. And so I went to the Claremont, I chose the Claremont colleges, which was the only school that didn't pull me out for a recruiting weekend. They were like, "We can't fly you out, but we have designated tanning areas at the Claremont College to promote in Pittsburgh." And they're and it's a real liberal school, and it's we have a philosophy major on the football team who's kind of cool. I think you'll get along with him. And I was like, "Oh," and and it was super artsy, and I was like, "Yeah, that seems right." And it's 45 minutes from LA. I'm going to get close to where I want to go, and so that's what I did. Flew out to LA, and went to the Claremont colleges, studied theater and film. Went to London and studied there for a little bit, studied at Regent's College, sang at the Royal Academy of Music, studied at Lambda a little bit over there, flew back, graduated, and just moved to Venice is what I did.
Wow.
And then
Wait, you're getting recruited from Brown? all
Brown.
this
I
stuff,
mean,
but
that's
let's
what I'm thinking. I'm like, because I was a headhunter for 23 years and I hired people in the technology space, but Brown, Rice, Princeton, yep. Brown's a hell of a college.
Sure. Yeah.
You
It
know,
was a discussion. Brown wanted me to go to one more year of high school to go to Brown. They were like, if you go to like Buckingham, Brown, Nichols, we'll get you into a school and you'll play football there for another year and we'll bulk you up and you'll come to Brown. And I was like,
wow.
I really don't want a fifth year of high school. Like, I don't want it. And I was like,
but you really wanted to get into the
But
acting
like,
scene.
how? I mean, this is really deep. When someone goes, I want that. I want to be on that, like the TV, and then you cut to that's what you manifested.
I went to college. In college, I had Christina Applegate's picture on my wall, and I would tell my friends, we'd watch the show, and I'd be like, I'm going to play her boyfriend. And they go, what makes you say that? I go, because I can play a guy who thinks she's smart. And I said that to my friends, and then it literally 3 years later, you know, after a lot of stuff, I got my life together, and I was on the show, and my friends were like, "Holy crap!" I'm like, "I know, right? I said that I was going to do this, and I did." So that was great.
But you know, and Jen talks about that. You talk about it, you manifest it. It's going to happen, and it's crazy when you really believe in yourself and your dreams and goals,
and you work for it.
You know, it's not like, I'm just going to come out and be an actor.
Like you studied the craft, and you continuously study. I mean, you
teach the craft now. So I want to know though. So you're in Venice. You graduate college. Was it commercials first? What was it?
I was never really commercial material, unless it was like, do you want your kid to end up like this? Then don't let him do this.
So there was two commercials. There's the eggs frying in the pan, don't do drugs, this is your brain. And then there's Joe. So they said, no commercials for you.
I've booked half a dozen commercials in my life. I mean, I was one of the original Geico cavemen, like in the first commercial I ever had. I know, it's a great story. I only did the first one. I tell people I'm the Pete Best of the Geico caveman commercials. Do you know who Pete Best is? I know he was the drummer for the Beatles before Ringo Starr. So I did one commercial for them, and I didn't do any more. Long story made short, they hired me because I looked like the caveman, and then they realized they needed guys with short hair and clean shaven so that they could put all the prosthetics on them. And I was like, and I was doing the movie at the time, and I'm like, I can't shave, you know. So I got cut, which was fine. But it's only money. And but for me, I got to LA, and you know, the hardest thing was, now we're gonna get into like other stuff, but before we get into that, I was trying to like get things done, and I hit the pavement. I walked up and down Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard, going to every building, reading every directory, trying to find any casting office or like, this is before the internet. Like you just had you'd go to Samuel French Bookshop, which was like the actors bookshop in Hollywood, and they had a book full of like agencies and what they might be looking for, and you go through, and I'd take the Thomas Guide, and I'd mark in the Thomas Guide where I wanted to go, and I'd walk up and down the street. So much work compared to what kids have to do today.
Right.
And then I walked up and down the street. I didn't have a car yet. I took the bus to Hollywood. I walked up and down Hollywood Sunset Boulevard. I got nowhere. I couldn't get anywhere. And then a kid I went to college with went to Beverly Hills High School, and I spoke to him. He was still in college. I told him what I'm struggling, and he said, let me make a phone call. And he called a friend of a friend of a friend, and I ended up meeting with a publicist who set me up with an agent who let me audition for him, and I got an agency. Once I got signed with the agency, I didn't know what to do. And that was the hardest point of my life, because I got stuck being like, now I guess I wait till the phone rings? Like, I don't know what I do. Like, there wasn't a phone in my pocket. We didn't have phones in our pockets.
Right,
we didn't have access to make our own movies. Like, I didn't go to USC Film School. I didn't have, I'm like, how do I get tape now? Like, how do I act in things? Like, what do I do? And I got into a play, but I didn't know what to do. And that was really, for me, my downfall, which for a few years, which we'll discuss in a little bit. But my big break came like a few months, like after I moved to LA, surprisingly, 5 months after I got to LA, I booked a pilot for Fox called Blood Ties, where I played a long-haired motorcycle riding bad boy vampire who could dance. And that's what they were looking for. And oddly enough, totally was me. And I was like, oh my God.
I'm in.
And I booked that job, and that was my first big job. And I got signed by Paul Abdul's dance agent, and I started dancing professionally for a year with against guys like Chris Judd.
What? I didn't know this.
Chris knows, yeah. Chris, I used to dance against Chris.
That's cool.
Wow.
He was much better than me. But that's how Chris and I met. Chris and I met like kind of like at that type of stuff.
Love him. I love him.
But it was But for me, that was the trickiest part of it. And then when I started working, I mean, when I booked that pilot, I thought, I was like, I quit my waiting job. I was like, I want to be famous. I have a line on a TV show. I have one line in this pilot, one line in like 3 scenes, being like one of the Lost Boys, kind of like just this weird, brooding, whatever guy. And but I had a line. I'm like, I'm getting my SAG card. I'm rich. And I quit waiting tables and literally bought a motorcycle and a stereo and was broke. In 2 weeks, I was broke, and I was like, "Oh my God, what just happened?" I'm like, "Where's the next job? Doesn't it just show up?" No, that was not how it would happen.
Yeah, no.
That was also part of the downfall. Yeah, that was bad.
That's funny.
My God.
That's funny.
Now, in the mix of all this, like you have, like, how are you, like, you're kind of spiraling, but something that a lot of people don't know is that you were battling with the disease of addiction.
Oh, I don't know if I would say I was battling then. I was dancing.
Dancing.
When I take a look at that time period, I mean, I've been using drugs since I was like drinking and drugs since I was like 12 and 13. Like I started really young. As soon as I could walk into a liquor store with a fake ID, I was
Sure.
I started going to the nightclubs to watch like comedy in Boston when I was 14, and 2 drink minimum, and I was having 5. I mean, it's like I was absolutely living like an adult as a teenager anyway. And when I got off to college, I was a step ahead of half the kids who hadn't been there yet. And I was like, I was leading the charge, and I was like organizing stuff. Pretty much anything that you could give me, I would take. And that was kind of the deal through college. When I got to LA, that escalated to me, like kind of like dealing cocaine and crystal meth and kind of like, having access to it. But, and I started realizing, I was like, I'm decent at math. If I want to have this much and you want this much, then we should buy a larger quantity, and then I get mine for free.
Yeah.
And then I can sell you yours for a cheaper price than you were going to pay in the first place. And if you're going to do that, well, Michael wants that too, and so does Amy. So why don't I just buy enough for
buy
all
some
of
more?
us? And they get like, well, now I have all this money. Why don't I just put it back into the product, because that's going to double? And you know what? Cocaine, it's supply and demand. Like, it does pretty good on its own. Like, you don't have to do anything if you get good cocaine. And I was getting really good cocaine, and it was just it got to the point where I had a friend come over, and I literally had a pile of cocaine in my living room, and they were like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Profit." I don't know what to tell you. Like, we got a lot of cocaine, and that's a lot of cocaine, man. And that was, but so. I had a motorcycle accident around that time, and after the motorcycle accident, I couldn't wait tables anymore, and I couldn't go to the gym, and I was modeling at the time because I used to be young and pretty, and it was
Wait, you're a model dancer too?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I was like heroin chic, long-haired, like I was a Skid Row motorcycle. I did like motorcycle jacket catalogs and kind of like, that type of stuff.
Like the Fabio of the biker scene.
I would argue that I was like, Billy Worth, he was one of the Lost Boys. I was like,
I know,
sure.
Yeah.
I was like Billy, but like I was like Billy 2.0. Like I was a different version of Billy, like a younger Billy, and they kind of like, and I just did a bunch of stuff along those lines. And at the same time,
You just said Billy Worth. I remember Billy so well. Yeah.
Yeah. So Billy and I just kind of like do like, and he was my idol, like him and Richard Tyson, who was a guy who was a starred in a movie called 3 O'Clock High, who I loved him too. And I wanted to just be them. And Richard Tyson was drinking at the bar I was working at, and I'd seen Billy around. And I also I was playing these guys. So I was doing stuff, but when I had the motorcycle accident, I could never lose enough weight. I'm sure like Jen, like you had to deal with this. Like when I was modeling, they were like, you need to lose another 10. I'm like,
oh
I'm
God,
gonna remove ribs now? I don't know what to tell you. Like, I am not a little dude. Like I'm not little, and it was never going to happen. And so I was doing meth. I would literally put meth in my protein shakes before I went to the gym and kind of go work out, and just wouldn't eat all day, and just, was living off no food and just trying to like make myself. And after the motorcycle accident, I then had a problem because I couldn't work out. So I just started doing like drugs all the time. And that was really a big problem after the motorcycle. I couldn't dance. I couldn't like work. I couldn't like work out. And I was like, I just started using a lot and selling drugs. That's what I did.
How long did that go until you finally, whatever your catalyst was to get into the journey called recovery?
The rock bottom part of it. I got to LA it was a 2.5 year journey from getting to LA to recovery, right? So, and the first year was just a whirlwind of like partying and being like, I'm in Hollywood. I don't care. I make nothing mattered. There was no problems. It was the accident was about a year to a year and a half in, and then it was about a year of spiraling downward. Where like I never lost my job, which probably was a bad thing because I kept being able to wait. The restaurant kept me employed. They had a plate of cocaine in the bathroom in the restaurant I worked in. Everybody there was getting high. Everyone knew we were waiting tables high. Nobody cared. We just partied all the time. So it was really kind of like reinforced positively, and no one really cared. I was getting, when I was auditioning, was to play junkies. I was never really playing anything great, and I lost my agent because I just didn't care, and I was like losing focus. And my acting teacher, I was doing a showcase. I did a showcase so high, an acting showcase, and then got signed by like people afterwards. And I'm like, I'm so high. What are people doing? The flip side is that every time I didn't get a job, I was like, well, I'm high. Nobody cares. I'm like, I was using it as an excuse. I'm like, well, I'm not famous because I'm high. I'm not booking jobs because I'm high. It's okay. It's okay. And I just was killing the pain by being high. And then one day I got into another motorcycle accident, walked away. Wow. And I totaled my motorcycle, and I called my acting teacher, and I said, why am I not famous yet? What is going on? Why am I not working as an actor? And when I say famous, it's like, I just meant, why am I not?
Yeah, sure.
And he said, have you thought about stopping like using? And I'm like, that's not the problem. I'm like, that's not it. He goes,
yeah, I love it.
Yeah. He's like, well, why don't you try to stop? Then I go, okay, what do I do? And he goes, call 411 and ask for Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, all right. I said, and then what? And he goes, then go. I was like, okay. I hung up and I called 401, asked for Alcoholics Anonymous. They connected me, and this guy answers the phone, and he goes, hi, Alcoholics Anonymous, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I'm looking for a meeting. He's like, how long have you been sober? And I'm like, 17 minutes. And he goes, oh my God, this is my first night on the phone. Are you going to be okay? Oh my God. He start totally panicking. I'm like, I think so. And he's like, can you make it till tomorrow? And I was like, I don't know. And I realized, that was the first moment in my life that I realized I had never thought about not drinking or doing drugs to myself.
Wow.
It had never dawned on me that there might be a day where I shouldn't use drugs or drink. And I was like, even all the years I've been acting or whatever, or school, and I never thought about consciously spending 24 hours not using. I said, I think so. And he goes,
wow.
Tell me where our meeting was, which was on Mansfield and Melrose.
Oh my God, I used to go to those meetings.
Yeah. It was a Rodeo meeting that went there because Rodeo was not there anymore. And I went to this church, and I was like, I walked in, somebody saw me and came up to me, and they were like, introduce themselves. Is your first meeting? Yes. Right. And they go, do you have a higher power? I'm like, other than me? No. And they were like, and they said, do you think you do 30 meetings in 30 days? You do 90 meetings in 9 days, what they said. I go, I'll give you 30. That's what I said. I negotiate. I'm like, I'll do
it's a negotiation. Yeah.
I'm not going to do 90. I'll do 30, and we'll see how I feel about it then. Right. And I said I was going to give myself 30 days, and I booked my first SAG job in those 30 days.
Amazing.
Wow. They never looked back.
And I was like, are you kidding me? Right? Like everything fell in place. Like an Asian I knew, I told him I got sober. He picked me up. They sent me out. I booked this job, and I was like, all right, I'll give it another 30. And I gave it another 30, and I booked another job.
Wow.
Wow. I was kidding me. I said another 30, and I did another 30, and I booked another job. And I did that for 18 months, booking it. We're talking about like a line as the pizza guy or whatever it is, right? It didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Right. It didn't matter. I was actually working in the industry and booking that Married with Children and doing stuff. And I was like, and about a year in, I did a showcase where I wrote a piece for an acting showcase called Line for Line, where I played 5 different cocaine addicts. I did like each monologue was 2 to 3 minutes. I played 5 cocaine addicts, and each time I did a line, I was a different guy. And, and the last line, you realize that the last line I do, you realize, and each time I do a line, I take off a layer of clothing until I'm shirtless. And then you realize the last line I did, you realize that the last line is, I admit that I'm this guy who's playing all these people. I'm a junkie, and I'm fucked up, and I can't get work, and I'm a mess, right? And
how surreal is that?
And that monologue got me a big agent, And that monologue got me like, some other things. And that led me to like, I had an agent who said, we're not going to submit you for little things anymore. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Well, the thing was, is like, I had been made a deal with myself that I would stay 30 days. If I book another job, I'll stay sober. But that question meant bigger jobs means less auditions, which means a smaller booking rate, which means months where I don't work. Right.
Mhm.
And I had to, and I realized at that moment, I was like, this isn't about like me working. This is about my sobriety now. Like, this is like, when she said, are you okay with that? I have to realize, am I okay if I don't work? Will I get myself messed up again? Or can I stay sober on my own now and accept the fact where I am, that this has got to be where I am and I should stay here. And that was the decision I had to make that day. And I was like, yeah, I'm okay with that. And I realized that now I'm just going to live with my sobriety and be comfortable in my own skin. And I realized I was playing junkies. I couldn't book junkies when I was a junkie. As soon as I got my sober, I was playing junkies. And I was like, that's funny.
You know
That's
what?
amazing.
There's two things I want to hit on. What Jennifer and I think a lot of people don't understand is I graduated high school in '86. So we grew up at the same time. I was going into bars at 14, 15 years old. It was a different time back then, whether you were in New York or Boston or Chicago. I can remember going to college, the drinking age was still 18. It was just normal. But then to hear you say when you called that hotline, well, I don't know. I don't know if I can stay sober tomorrow. I've never done that. You're a guy that was ripping and running and walked into a 12-step base meeting and kept going. And how much time do you have today, clean and sober?
December 10th, like less than 2 weeks from now, it'll be 27 years. Yeah.
27 years. That gives me goosebumps right now. I mean that, and it's a pendulum. I don't know if that's the right word, time, because at 27 years you will be sober longer than you used, right?
Yeah, seems like a good reason to pop a bottle of champagne if you ask me,
Yeah.
right?
That's just amazing. It's inspiring. And I thank you for sharing these stories with us, because it's not like you walk around telling people that you don't drink or use, and that you're in recovery. Like, if you, and the fact that you're talking so openly about it, I thank you. And I know a lot of people are watching and I'll go, wow, like, you're inspiring so many people. Because you don't go around. You've never gone around. Like, you've never gone, like, even at my darkest days, have you gone like, do you think you have a problem? Do you want to get sober? Like, even at my like worst time sober, have you been like, you only cheered me on, like, good, bad, like, always, like, at my heaviest and like getting sober, and like at my heaviest, you're like, I love you. And then like, at my best, you're like, I love you. And at my worst, you're like, I love you, always. Like, and that is who you are.
Well, I mean, it's beyond that. I mean, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I thank you. I mean,
but
maybe
to
cry.
go on what you're saying, it's like, as you guys know, you can't get anybody to be sober. Like, that doesn't work.
No.
People have to decide that they want to get sober. All you can do is offer a hand and be like, I'm here if you need me. And like, and I will go with you, and I will go with anybody. People call me and they're like, will you go to a meeting? Of course I'll go to a meeting.
Sure.
Can we have lunch and talk about what's going on with me? Of course. I have students who are in and out of the program all the time. They get sent to me a lot because like they know that I work with them, and I sit there and I don't judge them, and I just go, look, it's up to you if you want to be prepared for your audition or not, whether or not, and if you're a mess, you're not going to be prepared. You think somebody else, do you want that? The thing that straightens out a lot of actors, you go like, you think that hurdle you're putting yourself in front of you, you think you're gonna be able to run a race as fast as the person next to you? If you're you're not going to be able to, the odds of you being able to perform in the way you need to with that hurdle in front of you are almost zero.
But it's and you hear it, you see it in your, but it's the people. Oh, I work better when I drink, or I smoke weed, or
And that's all we're saying.
Yeah,
I thought that too.
I did
absolutely.
too.
We all did.
I remember I was on Vicodin for a while, and I was like, I'm just so creative. Like, meanwhile, like, I can't leave my house. But
What was, I don't want to ship, but there was a role you went.
no, I don't want to get into that. Right
Why?
now. No, not right now.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's literally one career goes this way and the other one goes, that way.
Well, for me, all I know is I was scared that I couldn't audition sober. I'm in tune with my emotions on this level when I know what I'm doing, or I thought I knew what I was doing when they were subdued. And I was like, without that, I'm not sure what my levels are. And I'm not going to lie, it took a little bit of time to figure out exactly what I was doing when I was sober and being like, is this working? Is it not? Trusting myself, and all those other things that I had to relearn, which I think are the hard things to do when you're sober. Is like, can I trust the sober me or not is a big question,
So
And,
Wait,
go ahead on.
can I ask you, when did you feel that you were like, I'm accomplished? Like, I mean, I know there's always room to grow, and then like, we're always evolving and all that, but like, okay, I'm like in where I believed that kid said I wanted to be in on that, which was the TV. Going back to that. When did you feel, I mean, listen, you've worked with the best of the best.
Yeah, we're going to get into that
Yeah.
question next, but
I mean,
that's a great question.
it's a tough question to answer because some weeks I feel like I'm there and some weeks I don't also, right? But I can tell you, like, there are the moments that are clear to me when I booked the series regular job on ABC's Townies, and I was like, I have a sitcom on ABC. There's a parking spot with my name on it, and I have a dressing room, and people were saying, "Sir, can I get you anything?" I thought that was it. I'm like, this is what I always imagined. This is what I thought would happen. And for 15 episodes, it was exactly what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And then it went away. And then all of a sudden, they took my pass to the parking lot away, and they said, "See ya, now you have to check back in again." So, and then you're back to zero. And you're like, that's a huge wake-up call. I also learned during those 15 weeks that it wasn't everything I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And that I thought when that would happen, that my life would be perfect too. This is another thing that's interesting, like about sobriety too, is like, when you think you have everything. I was on set one week and a producer saw me depressed. I did a scene in front of a live audience and the audience was laughing. It was going really great. And I walked up and I was sad. And the producer goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I thought when I got a TV show that the clouds would part and the angels would sing and the sun would come out and trumpets would blare and Clydesdales would run by." And none of that happened. And he goes, "Congratulations. That's the biggest thing you could have learned here." And then
Wow.
And I was like, and it was a huge moment. It was crushing and at the same time liberating, because I realized what I always thought was the answer would be the success in TV and film was not going to make me happy either.
But what I see and hear from that, Joe, is you're now able to take that experience, and with all the kids, I call them, that you're teaching and how to act and how to do this or how to cut reels, you're able to culture people and say, look, this is a great line of work and you do some cool things, but this is reality. This is reality.
But I also think too, though, that this is like, I talk so much about it. Like, you're only as good as your next job cover campaign. I used to say as a model, but like even in acting, like or like in a creative aspect in the entertainment world, like you're only as good as your next job, even though you're in this job. But I feel like society still does that in all areas. You're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're this. It's the same thing, and like we value ourselves on that, and we have to dig a lot deeper to realize who we really are.
But on top of that, you walk down Hollywood Boulevard and you look at the stars and you recognize one out of every 5, 6, 7 names. Those other names were the top of their profession at the time that they got that star. And then, and then 50 years later, we don't know who they are. And there's something to be said about, realizing that it's a fleeting business. You ask a 15-year-old kid who Robert De Niro is, and they don't know.
They don't know, but they know Natalia Taylor from YouTube or whatever.
Right,
yeah,
that's correct. And they don't know De Niro. They don't know, they don't know who Dennis Hopper is. They don't know. And you sit there and you realize that it's generational and that it's fleeting. It's so fleeting, as you know from being in the industry too, is that like you sit there, I love what I did on The Punisher, and I love the role that I played on Happy. It's my favorite job that I ever had. The Perfect Storm to me was a huge moment in my career because that was the first $100 million movie I was ever asked to act in. And, there's certain things. In Clueless, even though, at the time I knew like it was going to be kind of a big deal, but who knew that 25 years later, it's still the thing that even 15-year-old girls are like, "You're in Clueless?" Like they resonates with them. And there's something about that legacy of something that's that powerful living on that's so beautiful. Like, forever, that'll be part of my legacy. And at the same time, like, made it? I don't know. I mean, when my dad saw Happy and he said, "You're really good," for the first time after 20 years of acting, like that was like a moment that was a big deal. Cause like Dad, for the first time, got it. He was like, "Yeah, you're
acknowledge Well, it's interesting. That's like with you and Blow. I mean, it's one of those movies that is just, everybody knows it. And I mean, when I was reading your bio when we had dinner and you're like, "I was in The Perfect Storm," I'm like, that was one of the most badass movies out there.
Yeah, but he's also in
Oh, yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan. I can't say his last name right.
And Shyamalan.
Shyamalan's movie. I mean, like,
Oh yeah, huge, huge.
I mean, he's just.
And see,
You're
that's the
just
thing. But Hollywood's so interesting because when I got the M. Night Shyamalan movie, I'm like, this is it. Like, this is the one. And then it's not the one. And it's amazing. And like, I had 5 callbacks for my Big Fat Greek Wedding, and I was like, this is a stupid movie. And then it made $300 million. It's like, I was like, I don't know what's going on. You never know. You just never know what people are going to latch onto.
So where do you see things now? I mean,
COVID hits.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this is something that's kind of like awesome and cool, and like you taught us so much too. Is like, because I had put acting on hold, and then I get all these movies, and then now COVID hit, and like that's all on hold. But you did a movie, and you were the first movie to be shooting since COVID happened.
So we were told. Yes, I believe it's true. Yes. Yeah.
Well, we can blow it up out there. You did, and that's our story, and we're sticking to it.
I was told by the union and my director that we were the first project to be greenlit during COVID. That's what we were told. But I
just gotta say, like, Joe is so modest, and like you're so humble about all your achievements in life, and yet like this man like rolls with like the A-listers, and he is an A-lister.
Oh,
you know, and it's like, and it's just so, I mean, like I'm having flashbacks now of like different moments, and like the Chris Judd stuff too, and all this, like I'm just thinking about all these moments that we've been out and about and whatnot through the years, and you've always just stayed you and true, and like always seeking more, like for yourself to grow. But there's so many layers of you, and it's like, how do you feel with everything that's happening, like where you're at right now? Like where are you? Are you like, I want to act more, I want to produce more, I want
to educate, I want to teach? What do you want to do? I mean,
I want to play poker more.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I feel like I'm a C+ actor who rolls with B+ and wishes I was hanging with A's. That's what I feel. But I think, man, so the first thing I did during this whole thing is I took a class on, I think it's called, what's it called? Coursera, which is like this website that has a bunch of classes on it. And they have something called the Science of Well-Being, which is a class about kind of like getting comfortable with yourself. When COVID hit, I was like, this is going to be a nightmare, and I need to like meditate more, and I need to like focus on kind of like positive thinking and not stop worrying about like monetary things and thinking about the things, experiences, and giving back, and the things that actually matter in life, right? And this class teaches that. It's a free class on Coursera. I suggest everybody take it. It's really, really good for your mindset. Cost you nothing but time. It's worth every penny. It's really, so I'm glad I did that. And I try to revert back to that as much as I can. But as far as like what makes me happy, like, look, if I got to write, direct, and produce this show that I created a few years ago, that would be a dream of mine. I wrote a feature film about my family, about Thanksgiving. That's I didn't write it this year, but I wrote it a couple years ago, but a Thanksgiving dinner with my family. I'd like to make that movie in the next year. That's kind of like my goal, is to kind of direct this movie. I want to direct a feature in the next year. That's kind of like my goal when the world goes back to normal, is to direct a feature. There's a documentary that I'm putting together that I'm really excited about. But for me, like, the most beautiful thing about like being a creator, whether it be like content or acting, whatever, is that the landscape always changes.
Yep.
I never know what's going to come. I really don't. I love teaching because I love giving back. I love watching like the sparkle in kids' eyes when they start figuring out acting and they go, oh my God, I get it. And like you see them, all of a sudden they go from being an actor in class and you're just like, that kid's going to start working next week. You see them break through and you're like, they're going to be in the running from now on. They totally get it. That's an amazing feeling. Like, being that kind of like corner man, like Freddie Roach is for boxers, to sit there and work with somebody and see them come to life and be like, and to see them get the job, like, I got the show. And you're like, that's amazing. I love that feeling. I don't think that'll ever end for me. I think I'll be an educator and a teacher until I die. I don't think that's ever going to stop, right? Because I think the importance of that outlives anything else. My desire to audition is dead.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I mean, I don't like auditioning anymore, partially because I don't get feedback. I told my actors all the time, I say, like, if you're not enjoying the process, you should quit, because the job is an unlikely scenario. Your rejection is 95% of it. If you don't enjoy the process, you'll be unhappy 90% of the time, and your job is that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, COVID and the way things have changed and self-tape, I feel like I'm throwing spaghetti at a wall. I'm not getting any feedback from this process.
Yeah.
There's some jobs that I would fight for, but a lot of them I don't want to, and I don't want to feel like I throw something at the wall and nobody cares. I'm losing some of that steam. So I don't know how much longer I'll be doing that. Now, I love acting. I get offered jobs and I love doing those jobs. You know what I mean? Like, people offer me a job, done. And I do get, I'm lucky enough to be in a position in my career where I get offered a certain amount of work every year. And that's,
cool.
You know what I mean? That's the dream every actor has, is that people call you and say, like, will you play this guy? That's the dream. I get some of that every year. But I have to fight a little bit harder for the levels of directing and producing that I have to achieve. And my heart is to lean in those directions. But part of me is also like, do I stay in LA? Like, do I just pack up and start seeing the world? Because I feel like, being trapped in my house for the last year has made me miss traveling so much that I really feel like, there's so much of the world to see. And that's more important. It's more important that I go and to a small village in Indonesia than it is for me to be here at this point, and experiencing those things and seeing the world and what it has to offer me. And if that means living in a small kind of like village in Spain and kind of like just going to the local coffee shop and hanging out for a little bit, I'm much more excited about that right now than I am about auditioning. So
that's awesome.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
I love hearing that. I think that it's important to follow that, like your passion. I think we evolve. I mean, since I've traveled the world more, since I've been more alert, more present, and since I followed my heart more, I have much more depth and weight to me, and I can pull from that much better. But it's important. I think people should follow their dreams and follow your heart.
My dream is my dream's always been to be Matt Damon.
Well, follow your
Keep
heart.
following your dream.
Follow your
I
heart.
don't think that's going to happen. I still think I'm not going to become Matt Damon. But it's like,
doesn't he get up at like 2:30 in the morning and start his
that's
day?
Mark Wahlberg gets up at 2:30.
Oh, that's Wahlberg. Okay,
I happen to know that because he's from Boston. I know what Mark does. He's I know. But yeah, Mark gets up at crazy hours. He's crazy. But look, I always thought that that's where I'd end up. It doesn't look like that's my path. It looks like my path is like, character guy who does like a bunch of different stuff. But do I really need to be in LA to do that? I don't think I do.
No.
So it's like, yeah. So
I do have a question to ask you. Favorite actor you've ever worked with?
Clooney.
Clooney, by
So
far, huh?
I've done 3 projects with him, and every time I've been in something with him, I think he's the most deserving movie star ever to live. Like, he is kind and considerate. He remembers the name of the guy who makes you the shakes in the morning. He remembers craft service guy who picks him up in the morning from every set. You walk in someplace and he sees you. He's like, Joe. So it's like he remembers everybody, and he doesn't need to, but he is so grateful and kind. I just think that which is so much more important than quality of actor. And if we're talking about that favorite actor, I just think he's the bomb. I think that guy's great.
That's
he's
awesome.
He's a great man. Talented actor, that's even though I think he's talented, there are people I've worked with that I'm just kind of like, oh my God. I did a scene, when I did Ray Donovan, John Voight to me is a guy who's I idolize, right? So that's a different, they take a look at that. That's a guy who is an Oscar who I love, or Dennis Hopper, who I've done scenes with. And there are moments like that in my career where I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting to do that with somebody who I think's amazing. And
Pretty amazing.
It's kind of mind-blowing having those moments.
That's awesome.
I remember when we were watching during COVID. We've been binge watching,
Binge watching.
and I'm like, babe, this right for Joe. And he's like, okay. I'm like, no, you have no idea.
But there's also crazy moments too. When I did Lady in the Water, there's a guy named Bill Irwin who I think is an amazing actor, and he was on a show called Legion a couple of years ago. I love him, and he came to my college and did a clown workshop when I was in school. And I remember I learned so much from him when I was in college.
You went to clown school?
And he came. They taught a clown workshop at my college.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So at the college, they came in, and we did a couple of clown days, and a couple of my favorite days I've ever done. I would have loved. Trust me, I've talked about running away with the circus and being with Circus du Soleil, being a clown for that show forever.
That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, because I'm like I could be a clown here. I think that'd be great. But he taught a clown workshop and taught me so much. And then when I did Lady in the Water, I got to sit down with him and be like, I'm partially here because of you. You know, and those moments to me are mind-boggling. Or even when I go to Portugal and handle the Comic-Con there, and I do a lot of stuff over there. I got to interview like
You're
Dolph
like super big in Comic-Con.
in Portugal. I have, for whatever reason, I have as big an audience in Portugal as per capita, much bigger in Portugal than I do in the United States. Like, you know, if you look at my Instagram and who follows me, it goes like, I think it goes Los Angeles is like where I get most of my people, but that's because I know people. And, right, in LA, the most people, and then it's Portuguese cities after that.
It's so wild.
How can people find you on Instagram?
At Joe Ugly.
At Joe Ugly. At Joe Ugly.
That easy.
Unfortunately, we're getting to the point, Joe, where we have to wrap up.
Okay.
But will you come back on?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you're amazing.
Yeah. I just wish
the-
that people could see here, like all your, there's a lot more we need to talk about.
So much to talk about. So
Yeah.
much.
Well, we need to get together soon too.
Yeah.
We're here for the next month, 2 months. So let's hook up and we can cook food or have you come over or whatever.
From a
Because
distance,
all
we can do that.
From
Sure.
a distance, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
I
we
mean,
can walk from a distance.
we can walk and wave, but Joe,
No more restaurants.
Yeah,
No,
I know.
know.
I want to thank you for coming
Our
on the
favorite
show and sharing with us. For the people listening, also, if you got a loved one struggling out there with substance abuse, mental health, and they need help, you can call Jennifer and I directly at 844-611-HOPE. That's 844-611-4673, or check out our website, dope2hope.com.
Joe, I love you. I love you
you too.
so very much. I want to thank you for being on our show and coming on. I can't wait to have you back on. But I also want to thank you for being an example to a girl like me.
No. Well, that's
And for always supporting me. Always supporting me.
I love you very much. There you go.
I love you too.
All right. Without that, she'll start crying. Joe, we want to thank you for coming on the Tim and Jen show.
We love
Everyone,
you.
have an amazing
Thanks,
day.
everyone.
Peace out. Later.
Peace.
We want to talk to you about Clean Cause, better caffeine. What's in the can? Our organic, sparkling Herba Mate is a premium pick-me-up that won't let you down. Every can of Clean Cause contains 160 milligrams of better caffeine, and each sip supports recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. 50% of the profits go to assist people into sober living. Check out cleancause.com.
Palm Beach is an executive luxury addiction treatment center located in Palm Beach, Florida. Our private clients come from all over the world, including business executives, professional athletes, celebrities, and more. Seaside Palm Beach offers first-class amenities and high-end accommodations, including a gourmet culinary experience, ocean views, pet-friendly facilities, and access to cell phones and laptops during your stay. If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please call us at 877-959-5053. Again, that number is 877-959-5053.
It's here and it's now. Dr. Abe Malikan, board certified in addiction medicine, is bringing to you Elite Home Detox, where we can put together a rehab plan for you in the privacy and comfort of your own home. This is a concierge service. We have a medical staff come to your home and detox you exclusively. Check out our locations in California, New York, and Florida, EliteHomeDetox.com.
Now, glutathione is a big word, but it's the body's own master antioxidant. So it's a scavenger for free radicals, for bacteria, and what's relevant now, viruses. This is new to the marketplace. There's no other product on the market that has the ingredient NACET.
And basically NACET increases the production of that glutathione that is in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system and keep it strong. Elevated sense of well-being. Supports muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, powerful liver support, energy, helps blood sugar regulation, superior bioavailability of key ingredients.
One of your best defenses against COVID is a strong immune system. Taking GSH Plus as a daily supplement does all that. And now we have the product out on the marketplace.